Okay, good evening. Good evening. Our learning tonight is sponsored by the Friends of Artie Weinstein, the memory of Avram Hirsch ben Yosef Halevi, who's a true friend of NATEP, a true friend of our shul. We lost just a little over a month ago. And sponsored also, and you see many of the members of the family are on tonight. I haven't seen them in a long time. It's so good to see your faces. It's sponsored by Lisa and Danny Pickett in commemoration of the first yurtzeit of Lisa's mom, Barbara Ann Twickler, Blima Bas Meir, mother of Lisa, of Amy Weinstein Longley, and Sharon. So good to see you guys. And the wife of Carl, I think Carl is on too. So good to see you. I have just such admiration for the Pickett family and for the whole Twickler extended mishpacha. Barbara was a writer. And I always think about that as I go through our experiences, especially during this time. Like, what would she have been writing now during the Corona time? What would have been her experiences, trying to reach out to her friends and family, not being able to interact one-on-one with her grandchildren? How would that have been? And how would she experience that? Her writings were very, very powerful during her life. So, descriptive and so beautiful. They're neshamos, Artie's neshama. And Mr. Twickler, Blima Bas Meir, should have an Eloi in Began Eden Shalmala, and their family should have a Nechama. This week, we have a double parsha. It's a double parsha, Behar, Bechukotai. We're rounding out all of Sefer Vayikra. It seems like we almost rushed through Sefer Vayikra, and unfortunately, we will not be able to get together for Parshas Bechukotai and Behar, and to say together, all in unison, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. As it is a Shabbat Chazak, we're getting very, very close to Shavuos, as we just mentioned. And I want to talk about a very, very important piece from Moshe Feinstein. What is the theme? What is the theme of all of Sefer Vayikra? We have to think about how that connects to the Parsha of Behar. Vayikra talks about Kedusha, holiness, karbanos, sacrifices, respect, love. It talks about relationships, marriages. What does it mean to have? What's an appropriate relationship? That is the totality, and most of it's a korbanos. You have tumah, tzaras. That is the generality of all of Sefer Vayikra until you get to Parshas Behar. And Parshas Behar throws in mitzvah after mitzvah. We begin with the mitzvah of Shemitah, and then from Shemitah we obviously go to Yovel. Shemitah is every 7th year in the land of Israel. We can't work our land. We have to leave the land fallow, and anybody can come in and take the food from our land. Every 50th year in the land of Israel, we have a year called Yovel, where again, land that you may have purchased goes back to its original ancestral owner in the land of Israel. Things that you own, slaves go free. It's almost like a free-for-all. It's like a souped-up Shemitah. That's year 50. After these two very important mitzvos, we have the mitzvah of price gouging. Al tonu iches achiv. If you're going to sell something to your friend, you can't price gouge. Just look at these prices. I don't know if this is real or not, but Purell bottles, $20, $40, $60. This one, at least the sign says it's real. Toilet paper, $10 per roll. No, it's not a joke. I don't know. But that's price gouging. Price gouging is a prohibition mentioned in our Torah portion. After price gouging, we have the mitzvah of tzedakah. If your friend or brother, sister becomes impoverished, it's our obligation to lift them up, v'achzaktabo, to give them strength, give them chizuk, and to support them during their very, very difficult and challenging time. After the mitzvah of tzedakah, we have the halacha, the mitzvah of ribis, that we're not allowed to accrue and ask for interest and charge interest in loans, which is so basic when it comes to common business practices. And we're not allowed to do that. There are ways around it, heter iska, but we're not allowed to charge interest to our fellow Jews. Now, ask Rav Moshe Feinstein, what is the connection? What is the relationship? What's the foundation of this Torah portion? What's the connection between each and every one of these mitzvos? This is Rav Moshe Feinstein right here. Rav Moshe Feinstein died. He passed away Antanis Esther. Anyone know what year? Could unmute yourself and shout it out. Anyone know a year?
It was like 1987 or something.
No, Aviva. There's Aviva Oppenheim, I believe. Shout out to Aviva.
83?
No.
1986, I believe.
Yehuda, thank you. 1986. For those that know, I'm a Mets fan. So I remember Ramosha died in 1986 because, fortunately, that's the last time the Mets won the World Series. Right? 1986. Ramosha died. He died 3 months before Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. They died 2 Gedolim. They both came over from Europe. Both died in the same year. So Ramosha, in a new sefer that just came out about his Torah teachings, writes that there's one fundamental line that you can understand every single mitzvah in our parsha. And that is the mitzvah or the concept of emunah, belief in God. Not just belief in God, but a fidelity to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And not just a fidelity that we only count on him, but that we truly believe that there is a God that truly loves us in every way, shape, and form. And how does that play out? I'm a farmer. I get my parnasa. I make my money by selling corn and by selling zucchini and by selling cucumbers and tomatoes. And now God says I can't work on the year 7. I can't sell them. And in fact, the people that I sell to, they can come and take my things. It's crazy. God says, that's Shemitah. If you really believe, trust me. And I promise you, I'll take care of you. In the next 3 years, you'll be taken care of, no doubt about it. There's a belief here, a fundamental belief. It's not just emunah, but it's bitachon. Bitachon means to act upon your belief and do it. It's one thing to say, I love you, but it's another thing to defend your spouse when they're being attacked by somebody else, right? That is true love. That's true ahava. There's one thing to believe in our mind that intellectually that God's there. Another level is to act upon it and to take, theoretically, risks that the rest of the world would take, and we take them because we believe. And that's what Shemitah is. That's what Yovel is. I'm giving back the house that I bought 40 years ago because God said, ancestral lands. But it goes further than that. I believe so much that there's price gouging. As much as I want to, and as much as I need that extra buck, I need that extra money, I ultimately believe that Hashem gives me everything that I need. We need to do our hishtadlus. We need to put in our effort. We need to work. We need to go to college. We need to go to get our master's and PhD, and we need to do all of that. We need to work very, very hard. But Hashem says we can't price gouge. Because if you believe that I'm going to take care of you, then we can't charge X amount of money extra beyond that responsibility. And in addition, we have an obligation that our hard-earned money is not our hard-earned money. It doesn't only come to us. We share that with others. We share that with our sisters and with our brothers, with our brethren. And we give tzedakah, we give charity. So fundamental as part of Judaism to give charity to others, right? When they're going through a hard time, I don't say, hey, I worked for it. What are you doing? We take care of it too. We take care of them. Because we believe Hashem is going to give us whatever we need. Our final net total, it's all from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's where Ribbis ties into. I'm not going to, Hashem said we can't, we're going to give a loan. Even though the people on the street say you give a loan, you get a little interest every single year. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That's a very nice idea. It's a very nice idea. It's a nice Dvar Torah to say over at your Shabbos table. But I think there's an added element. I was talking, and I have to give a shout out to one of my dear colleagues and mentors, Rabbi Shalom Baum from Keter Torah, who shared with me a beautiful insight, his own insight. He said, okay, great, very nice idea, very, very nice. But how is this now connected? Why is this all in this context? He said there's a greater context here that the year of Shemitah brings up. The year of Shemitah brings up a context where when someone's not working for that long, that creates a pressure, that creates an automatic stress, a challenge for that individual. How is that person going to act and react under stressful times, under a stressful situation? And he says it's not just very nice emunah when things are going great. I'm giving away my tzedakah. I am not overcharging people. I'm not even tempted to do all of these things. And I'll keep my year fallow. But when we are challenged, when it's in the context of a year of Shemitah, when we're under extreme stress, all of these mitzvos, all of these Jewish laws become ever more challenging. They become ever more difficult to follow in a time of stress. And that's, my friends, very real. And it's a very real feeling that many of us are feeling right now. And this adds, and I want to just add a brilliant insight. There's one piece of the puzzle. I left out one mitzvah. I'm not going to go around the room and ask everybody in the Zoom room, what mitzvah did I leave out? But there's one mitzvah that I left out, which doesn't seem to fit in to this whole picture, this whole puzzle of, Reb Moshe Feinstein. And that is the following halacha. Velotonu ish es amito. That there's a commandment. What's lotonu ish es amito? That we can't put our friends down. We can't verbally abuse an individual. We can't make fun of somebody. We can't scream out of anger at somebody else. Kan hizir, Rashi says, al onos devarim. Shlo yaknit es chavero v'lo yasienu eitza she'enu hogen aslo. You can't make fun. You can't deride. You can't knock. But also, can't give people poor advice. If someone comes to you for advice, you have to give them, and they're asking, be honest and give them objective advice that you want somebody to give you. And why is this mitzvah in this context of emunah? Why is this mitzvah? And based on what Rabbi Bam just said, we can understand that in a stressful time, in a challenging time, even speaking to the people that are living in our home and the people that we love becomes very difficult. It becomes very hard. And in stressful times, as our parsha, that's the context of the parsha, even good people, and sometimes even great people, act out with their mouths, with their pens, the keyboards, in ways that they would never consider doing in more stable times. People that are frustrated and that are angry, and they feel that because this is what's going on, it's justified for me to speak in a certain way. And that's why I believe this mitzvah is mentioned in this context. Lotonu ishas amito might be very easy for most people most of the time. But when you add the stress and the pressure, how are we behaving? How are we acting? What is the tone of our voice? How do we do that? And Rabbi Soloveitchik, in a very Soloveitchikian way, says something so powerful. He says, he makes up a term that Judaism ethicizes emotions. And he says here in a piece in Out of the Whirlwind, he says that we have a mitzvah called Simchas Yantif. And the Rambam says, what's Simchas Yantif? That I'm going to enjoy my meal. I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to get steak and ribs and it's Shavuos time, cheesecake, eggplant parmesan. It's going to be amazing. If you're just enjoying yourself, but we don't consider to give to others during that time, he said that's Simchas Kreso. Because Judaism demands that part of our emotions, part of our feeling of joy, is to give to others. And Rabbi Soloveitchik says the same thing is true in the opposite. It could be that in other cultures, in other parts of the world, when somebody's going through a hard time, they're allowed to just blast off at everybody else. They're allowed to do certain things. Sure, we understand it. Modern psychology, we understand where the people are coming from. But hey, let him do whatever he wants. So says Rabbi Soloveitchik, that is not true. He calls it in feelings of despair. In moments of challenge, in moments of grief, he says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us, he wants us, right, to overcome those emotions that we want to go to, that we want to access, because we are greater than that. We are greater than that. It's our job, dafka, specifically during these times, to overcome those moments of challenge and stress, and to use our voice to use our mouth, to use our language and the way we express to others in a powerful, positive tone, in a powerful, meaningful tone, to give chizuk and strength to others, and know sometimes when not to talk. One of my favorite thoughts, and you may have heard this from me before, is from Yemima Mizrahi. Yemima Mizrahi is a tremendous woman in Eretz Israel who teaches a lot of Torah. Sarah shared with me something beautiful. The word mishpacha and simcha, simcha is joy, mishpacha means family, have the same letters, except for one letter. There's one letter that is different in mishpacha and simcha. Anyone know which letter that is? Okay, I hope people are listening. Okay, it's the letter pei.
Pay.
Pei. It's the letter pei. Why is that? He says pei represents the mouth, peh, right? So often, joy in a family is dependent upon the peh, the mouth. How do we use the mouth in our own homes when we are quarantining, right?
You can't answer.
I missed that point. You'll let me know. Text it, write it in the chat, okay? That is the determining point. Is your simcha? Do we achieve simcha with the mishpacha?
Muted. He's asking questions, but no one can answer because
It's how do we use our voice? It's how do we use our voice? And that is very important here. And we're mentioning this now. I'm mentioning this now because Rav Chaim Shmulevitz says this, but it's a very easy idea. He points out Rav Chaim Shmulevitz. I have to say, Rav Chaim Shmulevitz was one of the first Rabbanim to enter. Next week, we'll speak about Yerushalayim. It's Yom Yerushalayim next Thursday night, Friday. And Rav Chaim Shmulevitz was one of the first Rabbanim to go to the Kotel for the first time in Shavuos morning. My father-in-law, he might be on the call right now. He was with him. He walked with him to the Kotel. He's the Rosh Hashiva of the Mir. And he writes in a beautiful piece in Parashas Vayera that it's our job during moments of challenge, during moments in our life, to take those moments, think about them, and internalize the messages that Hashem wants us to learn during these times. So when many years down the road, we can access them and use them. And we could be more sensitive to others. We could be more empathic to other individuals when they go through their difficult and challenging times. That's why Hashem puts us through challenges, so we could be more empathic in the future towards others. And I want to conclude, and I think it's a very powerful idea. I want to conclude. I was talking to a friend of mine today, a Rav in a different community, and he shared with me, it's like very interesting. We're talking about this where the gzeira is, whenever we go back to shul, it's going to be with wearing masks. Whenever we have minyan, wherever we're going to be, you have to wear a mask. And it's like that's the 21st century, that's 2020. What is Hashem telling us? I think a lot of things. It's not a question, but I want to share two. I think one thing is what we're saying. Lo tonu ishas amito. We need to be careful what we use our mouth for. Hashem is sending us a very, very clear message. What do we use our mouth for? Are we using it to uplift and to, give positive and to give strength to others? Or is it being used to deride and knock down? Think about that. Hashem's putting an extra guard over our mouths during this time. Lashon hara, speaking positively, right? That is so, so important and significant. And I'll share number two. Number two, Rabbi Willig on a phone call shared something very powerful. He said the one Magefa, maybe one more than one, but at least one of the Magefas in the Torah is a parsha we're going to read very, very soon. It's Parshas Korach. And in Parshas Korach, read about a Magefa, where a lot of people from Korach's camp were killed, in moments. And the way that the Magefa was stopped, the plague was stopped, was with the Ketores. So Rabbi Willig says, and many holy people during these days are reading the parsha of the Ketores. That's wonderful. And Rabbi Willig said, that's great, continue to do that. But he said there's another way to stop a Magefa, right? What was the reason for Korach? The reason for Korach was machlokas, disputes, arguments. He says, imagine if during this time we each called somebody up that we were having an argument with, right? Chas v'shalom, maybe none of us, this is for nobody. Somebody that we didn't get along with, and maybe we weren't speaking to for quite some time. or we had some unresolved issue with them. And now during this time, we recognize there's bigger things out there. And I want to do my part. I believe in myself. I believe in God. I believe in myself. I want to be greater. And we take this message and we say, you call that person up. We text that person and we say, you know what? Whatever happened, I forgive you. Or we talk it out. And we talk it out. Something that's not so easy to say, I forgive you. We talk it out and we just forget about it. We move forward. We move forward that individual. What a powerful statement we'd be making to our families, to our children, our grandchildren, to our communities. If people who couldn't sit next to each other in shul, siblings couldn't talk to each other, who now are, that's a powerful message. That's something that we could change and we could become greater as a result. And I just want to add with Rav Tzadok HaKohen. Rav Tzadok HaKohen says, sometimes, we spoke about Amunah, a beautiful thought for Moshe Feinstein. Where Moshe Feinstein says the whole parsha is about Amunah. And Rav Tzadok says sometimes it's easier to believe in God than it is for people to believe in themselves. Let's believe in ourselves. Let's believe that we are greater, that we can become greater than who we are right now by utilizing velo tonu, by utilizing our speech in the appropriate way, not using excuses, for, the time that we're in and the stress, and we all are, and it's real, but trying to train ourselves in a more positive way of speaking and give chizah to all of those. I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful Shabbos. It should be a Shabbos of menucha, a Shabbos where we get to connect with Hashem, connect with others, and really in many ways spend a little bit more time with ourselves. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos Shalom.